Good evening and welcome to tonight's Undaunted, bringing into the news untold stories. I am Star Smart. Let's begin. Under the cover of darkness on February 13th, 2026, we see flames rose once again over Mbat village in Unwa local government area of Dongamatun County, casting a harsh glow across Ambazonia. Armed men reportedly positioned themselves at the village entry points at dusk before descending late into the night, setting homes ablaze and forcing families to flee into the surrounding forest. A villager's warning cry is said to have spared many, yet Upper Mbat burned, including a local church that once stood as a refuge at the heart of the community. The violence spilled into Lower Mbat as fleeing residents were allegedly pursued and more houses reduced to ashes. Families now hide in nearby bushlands without reliable access to food, shelter, or medical care, and at least 4 people remain unaccounted for. Some local sources suggest the attackers may have crossed from neighboring Nigeria, though this has not been independently verified. What remains certain is the deepening humanitarian toll on a village already scarred by repeated assault. The attack unfolds within the wider conflict in the Cameroun, where civilians continue to find themselves trapped between armed forces and the state army amid the smoke and displacement. Amazonian authorities have renewed their rejections of what they describe as deceptive narratives emanating from Yaounde, insisting that their armed wing remains committed to defending civilians and denying responsibility for acts of criminality attributed to it. As ashes settle over Mbat, competing claims rise with the smoke, while villagers wait in uncertainty for calm to return. Well, let's get the prime headlines of Undaunted tonight. On Undaunted tonight, we'll take a look at Mbat village under siege, the third attack of February 13th that leaves the trail of destruction. Women who was also critically injured in a Sunday, February 15th gun battle in Widikum between the Amazonian State Army and the French Cameroun Army. In Bamunka community, it celebrates historic launch of New Testament in native language and the rejection of Yaounde's deceptive narratives and reaffirmation of the Amazonian State Army mission. And on the African scene, we see the AU summit that declares slavery and colonialism crimes against humanity, voices solidarity with Palestine. And on the foreign scene, North Korea opens new housing for troops killed in Ukraine. With that, we'll head into the full briefings of Undaunted tonight. Do stay tuned. Mbat village in Unwa local government area, Dongamatun County, has been ravaged by a third attack with the armed men setting homes ablaze and forcing residents to flee. The attack occurred late at night on February 13th, 2026, with attackers positioning themselves at entry points around dusk. Villagers' alert is what prompted many to escape, but then Upper Mbat was subsequently set on fire, including a local church. The attackers pursued fleeing villagers into Lower Mbat, burning more homes and leaving many without access to food, shelter, or medical care. At least 4 people are unaccounted for and many are hiding in nearby forests. Local sources suggest the attackers may have come from neighboring Nigeria, but this hasn't been verified. This incident is part of the ongoing violence in the Cameroon's northwest region, where civilians are caught in the crossfire between Ambazonia State Army and French Cameroon Army. The region has seen numerous attacks, kidnappings, and human rights abuses, with many displaced and living in precarious conditions, sadly. Well, not just Mbat, but also market seems to be under fire as a woman is fighting for her life after being caught in a gunfire exchange between French Cameroon Army and Ambazonian State Army in Widikum. On Sunday, February 15th morning, the intense shooting, which lasted several minutes, erupted around the Widikum market, sending vendors and residents scrambling for cover. According to eyewitnesses, the gun battle began when the Ambazonian State Army attacked a French Cameroon military checkpoint near the market, bringing traffic on the Batibo-Widikum road to a standstill. The market was also forced to shut down, with vendors abandoning their merchandise as the situation escalated. The injured woman, whose identity has not been verified, is receiving medical attention, but her condition is critical. This incident only highlights the ongoing violence in Ambazonia, where civilians are often caught in the crossfire between the Ambazonian State Army and the French Cameroon military. The situation in Widikum remains tense, with concerns growing over the safety of residents and vendors who rely on the market for their livelihood. Well, we have with us in the studios a barrister team in Mbeseha. Good evening, barrister, and welcome to Undaunted.
Good evening to you, and thank you.
Barrister, so we've seen these 2 reports. We're seeing one case of arson where unknown gunmen have set ablaze parts of Mbat on fire, including a church that used to be a safe haven and a refuge for the people of the community. And in another case, we're seeing in a public market space gunfire exchange between the Ambazonian State Army and the colonial forces of occupation that led to the shooting of one innocent woman and people leaving their products outside unattended because apparently it is obvious their lives are more important. These 2 cases show extreme consequences of the ongoing war in Ambazonia. I would like to get your thoughts on these recent happenings.
Thank you again for having me. The incidents merit to an analysis, because they talk about 2 different things entirely. Just take Mbat. Mbat is not the first attack. We've had attacks in Mbat before. They have been repeated long time, several times. I've said here, everybody challenged me, that in Mbat, the government is about 70% responsible. When I say the government, I mean the government of the Republic of Cameroon. 1, if those people are just being attacked by whoever, criminals around the community, whose responsibility is it to catch the criminals? It is the government of Cameroon. Whose responsibility is it to prosecute them? It is the government of Cameroon. And I've insisted, and that's the truth, that there are so many soldiers in Dongamatun. There are so many bees and yandams and people who must be attacked at any time and go free. The second element of the Mbat attack goes to allegations that the people might have crossed from Nigeria. Yes, there are allegations, but who is to prove whether they crossed from Nigeria or not? It is the government, because Nigeria is a sovereign country. And if actually Nigeria, is that a difficult thing for Cameroon government to solve? No. The Cameroon government should contact the Nigerian government, the Nigerian authorities around there, and the two countries can then resolve the issue as soon as possible. This again falls on the arms of the government, not you and me, not the ordinary Mbat woman who is selling cocoyams along the road. And so if the government has abandoned its responsibility from investigating even where they come from, who is to be blamed? And I can give this as an example. A number of years back, I come from Libya. Libya shares a border with many people to Cameroun. Communities have that type of cross-border attacks. They occurred there. And there in Libya, they were preface and sous-preface. They realized that it was not something they could solve at that level, considering that they were part of Cameroun. It crossed the region. It was a regional border crossing from the west to the southwest. What did they do? They convened a high-level commission that composed of the governor of the southwest and the governor of the west. They sat down and they sorted out those problems. It is a farmer grazier problem I've said many times before. That's not new. Farmer grazier issues arise and they should be handled by the government. But simply, for example, defining everybody's territory, you feed where you're supposed to feed, you grow your cocoyams or your beans where you're supposed to grow. Either way, it is a responsibility of the government to prosecute the people, to investigate the real causes of the problem, and to bring real solutions to them. That's why I say, then anybody challenge me on this. Then challenge me that it's not a responsibility of the government. Then challenge me whether it is not their responsibility to investigate, which investigation in their own terms will never be resolved. The second part of the story is the one in Widikum, which is totally different. In Widikum, if the story is true, the attack is arising around the market square. Why? Because the Cameroun is mounting, the soldiers are mounting illegal checkpoints there. To do what? Extort money from people going to the market. To extort something from people coming from the market. Is that legal? Even in Cameroun, it is not legal. Who will enter that? It is the Cameroun government. And so the ASAs attacked them. And in that process, people, who is responsible for that? The ASA are in their right to tell them you're not supposed to be here. You're not supposed to be in Ambazonia. Talk less of extorting people in Widikum. And so either way, it is the government of Cameroun. Put soldiers away from us. If they didn't put them completely, if they instructed them to stop extorting money from market goers or market, that would have occurred. But they're not doing it. Do they expect this criminal act that they do to go unchallenged? No. But what can an ordinary woman or somewhere there and ordinary do with us? Their guns can all be matched by the guns of our own boys and girls who are defending our own territory. Again, these are two different things. This first one I've said is responsibility of government because they are supposed to maintain order there. Because at least they claim that Donga Mountain where things are happening is part of their territory. Because it's part of the security there, not Amazonians. And in the second one I've just said, it is their responsibility. Their responsibility does not include extortion. I remember some times ago, even in the Republic, they have put the term to that mountain of roadblocks just extort money from people. They are unable to control their own security forces. What else do you expect? You remember a story in Limbe, I think, not long ago. They were standing on the road trying to extort money from the driver. The driver said, look, we don't have money. They said, okay, carry us in your truck. Take us to our brigade where you sign documents and bring us the money. Why the poor driver could not do anything, he carried them. And God having it their way, they dropped fire and the two policemen died. They died in the accident, the driver did not die. What do you mean by that? Working in our favor. At least God is not asleep. And so the two incidents I've just said can be analyzed in two different ways, which I've just done. I wish anybody dare challenge me on any of the analysis I've made. Over to you.
Thank Thank you, Barrister Mbeseha, for that contribution there. Well, they're more on the home front, but we see that amidst the war, there is a new development in Bamunka, Undaunted precisely, where the people have marked a historic milestone with the official unveiling of the New Testament, translated into their native language. The launch is being hailed as both a spiritual breakthrough and a major step towards preserving the community's linguistic and cultural heritage. The translation project was overseen by the Summer Institute of Linguistics, the SIL, in partnership with local Baptist, Catholic, and Presbyterian churches. The ecumenical collaboration brought together clergy, linguists, and community elders, ensuring that the translation was both theologically sound and linguistically accurate. Now, for many Bamunka speakers, the new translation represents far more than access to scripture. Until now, most worshippers relied on English, French, or neighboring language versions of the Bible. Church leaders say hearing the reading and reading the New Testament in Bamunka will deepen understanding, strengthen participation in worship, and allow older generations and rural congregants to engage with scripture more meaningfully. This translation affirms who we are as a people, a local church representative said during the launch ceremony. Our language carries our history, our values, and our faith. The Bamunka New Testament joins a growing list of scripture translations across Cameroon's Grassfield region, including Limbum, Lamso, and Mendakwe, amongst many others. The region is one of the most linguistically diverse in Africa, with dozens of indigenous languages spoken across communities. SIL Cameroun operates the largest SIL program on the African continent, working not only on Bible translation but also on literacy development, language documentation, and orthography standardization. Linguists warn that many local languages face increasing pressure from globalization, urban migration, and the dominance of English and French in schools and public life. Community members gathered in large numbers for the unveiling ceremony, which featured scripture readings, traditional music, choir performances, and testimonies from members of the translation team. The process, which spanned several years, involved linguistic research, drafting, community review, and theological consultation. Beyond its religious significance, the translation is exposed and is expected to boost literacy efforts in Bamunka and inspire the development of additional written materials, including educational resources and future Old Testament translations. The celebrations continue in Undaunted. The Bamunka New Testament stands as a powerful testament to unity, faith, and the enduring importance of preserving Cameroon's rich linguistic heritage for generations to come. Well, Barrister Mbeseha. Barrister Mbeseha, what would you say of this development?
Oh, well, I think I have too much to say because it tells a lot. You see, if you are on social media all this time, you find our brothers and sisters or anybody, they talk about Western religion that came to spoil Africa. To spoil Africa, not just Cameroon. And I've insisted there's nothing like religion is not the language. Religion is the content. And so can these people criticize Western religion, call it Christianity? Can they say that there was no Christianity in the Bamunka language, in the Bali, in the Lamsos, until the white man brought the Bible? No, the people had those very values. The Bible was not written in English. It was not written in French. It was not written in Italian. It was written in Aramaic. So the versions you have in English, in French, in Russian, or any other language is simply translation. And so if the Bamunka community, they have the capability to translate, you're like the ones in Bali. I remember the Bible has been translated into Bali long time ago. When they talk it in Bali, are they talking the language of the Swiss? Because remember that the Presbyterian mission came from Basel in Switzerland. That's why they call it the Basel mission. Are they speaking the language of the Swiss people when they translate into Bali? No, they are speaking the Bali language. When they translate into the Lamso, are they speaking the language of the Frenchman in Paris, of the Pope in Italy? No, they are speaking Lamso, in the values that it is. The important thing is the value that is meant. Christ came with values, and what did he say? He did not come to abolish the Old Testament. He came to perfect it, to correct it, the interpretation people give. Christ himself was a Jew. He never spoke English, he never spoke German, he never spoke French. He spoke in Aramaic. And so if this translation can be done, again, it goes to challenge, because we have spent a lot of time in Amazonia as well as all over Africa, trying to say that the Western region has come to destroy us. I think just last week I said this. The Western religion, which is contained in the Bible, is just a set of morals which are present in every single community in the world. Among them, thou shalt not kill. Among them, thou shalt not lie. Among them, thou shalt not obey your parents, do all this. These are just moral values. Christ came to do just that. And then, call it Christianity or not, the values are the same. Call it in English Olamso, or in Japanese, the moral lessons remain the same. So we can only say kudos to this people of Lamso, of what do you call that place, who have been able to translate into their language. If other communities in Amazonia in particular, and the world in general, can translate the Bible into their own language, that will make a better understanding, because the Bible is something of morality. Don't kill your friend, which is why you are killing people here. Don't lie. We are people have been lying all over. Does that exclude their lies politically? No. And so, again, when you read the Bible in Bali, because I've seen the Bali version. I don't know how to speak Bali. If you read the Bali version, you're a Bali guy. Some reads version. You're from Banso, you speak the same language, no? You reflect the same thing religiously. They reflect exactly the same thing. And so, again, this should dispel the idea that something will call religion has no boundaries. That's moral boundaries. Theft in England is as bad as theft in Russia. Theft in Russia is as bad as theft in Amazonia, and so on and so forth. So we can say congratulations to these people for doing what they have done. We can only encourage other communities that have the ability, because it's not easy to do it. You must have the ability to do it. You must be able to understand the language very well, to know what this word means in your own language, and then you put it exactly like that. And so, again, that is good work. That's the morality that we want. These are the one who can read, because translating it has no meaning until you can read and write. My father cannot read anything, cannot write anything, even if it is written in where they will not understand it. But for those who can read in that language, children will grow up, tell their parents this is what is said in the country talk. That will be useful for the moral upbringing of the community. That will be useful for the justice that we seek, because the Bible is about justice. The Bible is about fairness. The Bible is about truth. And it says, tell the truth and the truth shall set you free. We can quote Cardinal Tumi Mensoros in peace, where he said, let us go to the conference table, tell the truth, and let the chips fall where they are. You free your mind if you don't free your physical self. If you're in prison, tell them the truth. Like they put it in the Bible. Some people, since Stephen, they were stoned to death because they told the truth. And so, thank those people who are doing it. Again and again, I insist. This is dispel the argument of Western region came and killed us. Western region brought nothing other than the written word. Because this was written, ours was not written, we thought that they imposed something on us. They imposed nothing. They brought exactly the moral that your father, mine, and yours, our grandparents had the same moral. Just like the Jews. In which language that thing was written? Aramaic. Over to you.
True, Barrister Mbeseha, you've said so many wise things there. Indeed, religion has no borders, and kudos to the people of Bamunka, as you've heard from the barrister and from Undaunted Studios. Well, still on the home front, we see that the government of the Federal Republic of Southern Cameroun's Amazonia has issued a strong condemnation of what it describes as a coordinated campaign of state-sponsored disinformation aimed at undermining the legitimacy of the Amazonian State Army. The statement characterizes the alleged campaign as an effort by authorities in Yaounde to distort realities on the ground and weaken support for the Amazonian cause both domestically and internationally. According to the Amazonian leadership, the Amazonian State Army continues to position itself as a defense force dedicated to safeguarding civilians and protecting property across southern Cameroun's Amazonia amid ongoing instability. The government asserts that the force remains focused on its stated mission of defending communities affected by the protracted conflict. The statement further alleges that certain criminal incidents, including kidnapping and extortion attributed to armed elements, have involved individuals impersonating the Amazonian State Army personnel. These individuals are described as actors linked to Cameroon who are allegedly attempting to tarnish the image of the Amazonian State Army and create justification for intensified military operations in the territory of Amazonia. Now, addressing broader narratives surrounding the conflict, the Amazonian While addressing broader narratives surrounding the conflict, the Amazonian government rejects portrayals of the crisis as a localized or communal dispute. It maintains that the situation centers on political self-determination and claims of marginalization rather than inter-community tensions. The leadership reiterates its position that the struggle represents a quest for liberation and sovereignty. The government also restates its declared policy of zero tolerance towards acts of criminality, including ransom taking, intimidation, and harassment of civilians. It emphasizes that individuals engaging in such activities do not represent the ASA or its missions and are not acting under its authority. The press release concludes with a reaffirmation of commitment to what it describes as the ongoing struggle for self-determination and calls on observers to critically assess narratives emerging from official channels in Yaounde. President Samuel Ikome Sako of the Federal Republic of Amazonia giving this press release. Well, Barrister Mbeseha, this is one report of quite a concern. From time to time, we see Yaounde doing the detraction thing where they detract the international community from the ongoing struggle for liberation in Amazonia. But this time around, they seem to paint a narrative that it is intercommunal clashes. It is communities in Southern Cameroon fighting other communities in Southern Cameroon, when that is not the case, but it is a resistance, an act of self-determination. That is the case in Amazonia, but they seem to portray something different to the entire international community. Looking at this and the president proactively debunking that, what do you think of this tactics of the regime in Yaounde?
Well, I've often said this. The regime in Yaounde is a criminal regime. It's a regime that lies without being ashamed. They tell lies to themselves They tell lies to the world. They deceive people, even the audience. Who told them and where did they come about with the idea of intercommunal struggle? Are the Santa people fighting with the Mbunda people? That's intercommunal. Certainly not. Are the Douala people fighting with the Tiko who share a boundary with them? You don't have any quarrel there. Absolutely no quarrel. Are the BLM fighting with the people of Cham in the Menua? No. So where is this intercommunal thing coming from? It is a falsehood created to distort the facts. As the president says, as the statement puts it out there, it is about a people restoring what they had. The simple question for them to answer is, what are these people trying to restore? Did they ever have it that they want to restore? If they had something which they are trying to restore, where did it go to? Where did that thing that they are trying to restore go to? It disappeared just like the wind. If it disappeared like the wind, then the ambassador will try to go out the sky, catch it and bring it down. If somebody in Yaounde or around the world, whoever, caused it to disappear with a stroke of a pen or with some language, something happened done by politicians somewhere that led to this war. They should admit these facts. These are facts in writing. I've said many times that it is the truth. Southern Cameroon ambassador history is all documented somewhere. You can read it. You can handle the piece of paper. You can check. So that is the bottom. Ambassadors are not jokers. You cannot seek to attribute criminal acts which people have committed in the course of this struggle to a legitimate government. If you have to do that, you must first of all accept your own responsibility. But remember that even they in Yaounde, that's the of Yaounde, has distanced itself from criminal acts committed by their own soldiers. They say, well, that's not our policy. That's the rogue soldier. The same principle applies to Ambazonia. If for one reason or the other an ASA member goes astray, that is not the policy of Ambazonia or the ASA. That's not our policy. We distance ourselves from such acts of criminality, and if necessary, we bring the person to book. That is what all nations do. I remember we lived in the United States. After the Americans went to Afghanistan and came back fighting, their soldiers were sanctioned right in the United States who violated the law in Afghanistan. They were not rogue soldiers. They were real soldiers who went beyond their own limits. Their government sanctioned them. We still have the power to sanction ours. They should have the power to sanction theirs, but they should admit that the Ambazonian struggle, the Ambazonian army as a bloc, is a defensive army. All armies around the world are supposed to be defensive of their own territory. That's our role. We defend our territory, Ambazonia, British Southern Cameroon. We've not crossed to any other country around the world, talk less of the people to Cameroon, who are our neighbors to the east, or to Nigeria, who are our neighbors to the west. We've not done that. And so we are a defensive army. We defend our people. We defend our territory. That's the common understanding of national armies. We are the same like them. But again, we don't rule out the possibility of a rogue soldier. Just that they do not. The Americans don't. The Chinese don't. The Russians don't. If that happens, it is the responsibility of the army, of the government, of that controls the army to bring those people to book. But that will not change the narrative that the American soldier, the American army that want to fight, call it in Russia, call it in Iraq, or anywhere, is a legitimate defense force of the United States. So their narrative is as stupid as what they can think. These people are so blinded to facts. They tell lies when they want to tell. They sit out and defecate in the public without being ashamed, because those are all lies. If they want the truth to come out, and we all know the truth, they should do the simple thing, come to the negotiation table, address the root causes of the problem. If they don't know the root causes, there they will learn what institutions want to restore and why we want to restore them. As simple as that. But they know these facts. They know these facts. Paul Biya, the head of state there, knows these facts. He was there in 1961. He was an old man. He came back from France not long after that. He has been in government all the time. All the petitions in writing and in verbal presentations have been sent to him as a president. They went to him when he was the prime minister. They went to him when he was the secretary general in the presidency. So let him then stop living in falsehood. We are not too small. We might look so small. But we're not, our intelligence is not smaller than, it's not smaller than theirs. We're as intelligent as they are, if not better than them. And so that narrative is stupid. It is lying publicly, as I said in the last statement. Tell the truth, and the truth will set you free. So said Cardinal Toomey. Let them come to the conference table. Let them tell the truth. We tell the truth. We shall see who will be set free from the bad truth. Over to you.
Well said, Barrister Mbeseha. Indeed, this is one of the most important reports on Undaunted tonight. Thank you for shedding light on that report. But then it is at this juncture, we'll call it a close with you here, Barrister Mbeseha, and thank you for joining us yet again on Undaunted tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure. All right, coming up next is news across Africa. Leaders of the African Union have formally adopted a landmark resolution declaring slavery, deportation, and colonialism as acts of genocide and crimes against the people of Africa, in a move expected to intensify global conversations about historical justice and reparations. The resolution was approved at the bloc's two-day summit held in Addis Ababa, where heads of state and government gathered to deliberate on continental priorities, peace and security, and Africa's position in shifting global geopolitics. Speaking at the close of the summit, AU Chairman Mahmoud Ali Yusuf described the decision as a significant political and moral statement by African leaders. The conference recognizes colonization as a crime against humanity. That is very important, Yusuf said. The conference also expresses its solidarity with Palestine and the Palestinian people. The resolution frames the transatlantic slave trade, forced deportations, and colonial rule not merely as historical injustices, but as systemic crimes that cause lasting structural damage to African societies, economies, and political systems. Now, by characterizing these acts as genocide and crimes against humanity, the African Union strengthens long-standing calls from African states and the diaspora for accountability, reparative justice, and formal acknowledgement from former colonial powers. Analysts say the declaration could bolster Africa's negotiating position in international forums, including at the United Nations, where debates over reparations and historical redress have gained renewed attention in recent years. While the resolution does not create immediate legal mechanisms, it establishes a unified continental stance that may influence diplomatic engagement and potential legal advocacy. In addition to addressing historical injustices, the summit also turned attention to contemporary global conflict. Yusuf's remarks, condemning what he described as the extermination of the Palestinian people, signal a continued alignment by many African states with pro-Palestinian positions in international diplomacy. The resolution is expected to spark varied reactions internationally, particularly from European nations with colonial histories in Africa. Some observers anticipate renewed debate over financial reparations, formal apologies, and the restitution of cultural artifacts. The African Union has in recent years intensified its push for greater global representation, including reform of the United Nations Security Council and positioned itself as a stronger collective voice on issues affecting the continent. Now, this latest declaration underscores the bloc's effort to redefine Africa's historical narrative and assert its perspective within global legal and moral frameworks. For that, we head into the rest of the news across the globe. On foreign scene, state media in North Korea reported that leader Kim Jong-un has inaugurated a new residential development for families of soldiers said to have been killed while deployed abroad, as Pyongyang intensifies public tributes to troops linked to the war in Ukraine. According to the official Korean Central News Agency, the KCNA, Kim toured newly built apartments on Serpyeol Street, accompanied by his daughter, where he met with relatives of the fallen service members. Photographs released by state media showed him speaking with families and inspecting the modern high-rise buildings. The reports described the deceased soldiers as young martyrs who had performed sacred combat missions. The images and accounts could not be independently verified, a common limitation when accessing official reporting from the highly secretive state. But then in recent months, authorities in Pyongyang have stepped up public commemorations of military personnel deployed overseas. State outlets have highlighted new memorials, museum exhibitions, and loyalty campaigns dedicated to soldiers described as having fought in support of Allied forces. Analysts say the expanded honors appear designed to bolster domestic unity and reinforce loyalty to the leadership amid growing international scrutiny. Now, Pyongyang has deepened the political and military ties with Vladimir Putin since Moscow's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022. Western governments and regional intelligence agencies have accused North Korea of supplying weapons and, more recently, manpower to support Russia's war effort. Both Moscow and Pyongyang have strengthened cooperation through high-level visits and defense agreements, framing their partnership as a stand against what they describe as Western hostility. The government in Pyongyang has not publicly confirmed specific casualty figures. However, National Intelligence Service in South Korea estimates that around 6,000 North Korean troops have been killed or wounded in connection with the conflict. Security experts say the housing initiative serves multiple purposes, providing tangible benefits to bereaved families, reinforcing the narrative of patriotic sacrifice and signaling to domestic audience that the state stands firmly behind its military personnel. Public displays of support may also be intended to preempt potential discontent over overseas deployment. Despite limited transparency surrounding the scale and nature of North Korea's involvement, the steady stream of state-sanctioned tributes suggests Pyongyang is increasingly framing its reported participation in the Ukraine conflict as a source of national pride and strategic solidarity with Moscow. Well, with that, we've come to the end of tonight's Undaunted, but before we go, let's take a look at our major headlines. On Undaunted tonight, we saw Mbat village under siege, the third attack of February 13th, leaving trail of destruction. We also saw that a woman is critically injured in a Sunday, February 15th gun battle in Widikum between the Amazonian State Army, French Cameroun Army. And in Bamunka, the community celebrates historic launch of New Testament in native language. The rejection of Yaounde's deceptive narratives and reaffirmation of the Amazonian State Army mission. And on the African scene, we saw the African Union Summit declared slavery and colonialism crimes against humanity, voices solidarity with Palestine. And on the foreign scene, North Korea opens new housing for troops killed in Ukraine. And that was it for tonight's Undaunted, bringing into the news untold stories. On behalf of the entire Undaunted newsroom, we say thank you for tuning in. We leave you with ABC Amba TV images. Good night and God bless you.